Hello, hello, hello. Have I got a good angle there? Got funny lighting going on today, but I'm going to continue regardless. Let me just move my phone. Yes, I am streaming this to you via StreamYard from my phone. Why? Because the camera's actually quite good on my phone, apart from the fact that I've got shadow behind me. But that's not what we're here today. Today, we're here to talk about burnout, when visibility meets burnout, and what to do about it. So this is day 51, which is actually the second day of a trilogy. Yesterday was all around, what was yesterday all around? Yesterday was all around anxiety, to think then. Today is about burnout, and tomorrow is about overwhelm. So just in case you don't realise, I've been streaming for 365 consecutive days, and I've decided to bring this trilogy within my 365 days. Normally, I would do it separately, and usually I would deliver it for 24 hours and then take it down so that my clients can enjoy it, people who work closely with me can enjoy it, and I can add it as value to my programs. But actually, I've been hearing so much about anxiety, burnout, overwhelm, and so much so when it comes to visibility as well as other things. I decided to include it in this and keep it up for your reviewing pleasure. So, wherever you prefer to watch these, you can either have a look on YouTube, just search at 𝗙𝗶𝗶 and you'll find my channel. Please subscribe while you're there. You can go over to my LinkedIn profile and search for 𝗙𝗶𝗶, the Queen of Being Seen, which it says in smaller writing under there. And if you do that, please hit the connect button. Don't just follow me because it's harder for me to interact with you. Hit the connect button. And one thing that you won't receive from me is a slimy DM saying, buy my stuff, or here's how you can find out more about me. What I tend to do is look at what you share publicly, and I've got a lot of people to go through, just getting close to the 8,000 mark now. But I look at what you share publicly and interact with you publicly that way. So no need for private messages, no need even for a connection request if you don't feel that you want to. And then finally, if you're a Facebook kind of a person, I have a Facebook business page. If you reach out to connect to me on my personal profile, just so that you know, I won't accept it just because I tend to keep that for friends and family. And since the end of last year, I've actually been culling the numbers, which sounds very strange for a visibility specialist. But I tend to share most of my business stuff on the Queen of Being Seen page. So 𝗙𝗶𝗶, the Queen of Being Seen. And to find that, you just search, click the at button and type in visibility vibe without the S, and you'll find me. So, please do connect in whichever way feels great for you. And by the way, somebody was asking me the other day, YouTube, why YouTube as well? That's not really social media. And I get that. Some people prefer to watch on something like YouTube. It's easy to share, easy to go back to, easy to subscribe to, easy to consume in a way that you want to, as opposed to kind of having to try and find it through other places too. So that's the reason, answer to your question. Okay, so I have been doing this work, this visibility work, for the last 14 years. I'm just about to click over to 15. Officially speaking, I knew I was going to start doing this work on the 9th of July 2010, but I officially started doing it in the September. That's when I officially started my business. So from September, I'll be going into the 15th year. Hard to imagine. If my work was a child, it would be a teenager by now. I'd be trying to stop it from getting at the alcohol and all sorts of things that teenagers can sometimes get up to, but I digress. Today, I wanted to talk about burnout and visibility because um, here's what it is in this context, and here's why it matters. So, what I often find when people either start a business, they want to be more visible, they work corporately, they think the best way to be visible is to be all things to all people. They think it's to be out there everywhere. And often they think the more time they spend on it, the more successful the outcome of being visible will be. And whilst that could be true, that's not actually necessary. So what I come across a lot are people who are very highly driven, very ambitious. They wanted to get themselves out there. Oh yeah, all of the things are coming back up now. They wanted to get themselves out there, and they have that ambition and that drive that fuels them into putting themselves out into the world, out into their industry, out into their organization. But what actually happens is, because usually they are really passionate about their topic, they don't feel the burn, they don't feel the burnout, and they don't feel the burn. So they'll keep going and going and going and going. And instead of looking for the results that they set out to do, which is often missing because they didn't have a plan in the first place, they just kind of pray and spray. Instead of looking at the results and tweaking it according to their plans, their vision, their aims, or their goals, they just keep using that drive and that passion to keep putting it out there. And what happens eventually is that they burn out. And I say eventually because burnout is a slow burn, pardon the use of words, but it really is. And why I think it's important is that I am not an expert in burnout, let me tell you. But one of the things I see a lot in this visibility work, especially when I'm working with people in groups or privately, is that their desire and their drive to get their work out there, to get their message out there, to get the cause out there, to be philanthropic, to serve at the highest level, often results in them burning out. And one of the things that I've always said about burnout, because I've noticed this even from before I started doing this in 2010, this visibility work, is that when people are on the road to burnout, they often don't notice it. By the time they notice it, there's normally some sort of physical manifestation of something that's happened in their body, some sort of illness. It could be fatigue, it could be forgetfulness, brain fog. And those things that they notice can be attributed to so many other things too, from and I tend to see it more in women than men, I have to say, than cis women, more in cis women than cis men. So they can think that they're just a bit stressed out, is usually where they think they are. They can think it's perimenopause or menopause. They can think it's down to not getting enough sleep and being just tired in general. They can say, oh, I think I'm ADHD, and that's what it is. When the truth of the matter is that they are burning and burning and burning. There's like these phases that I notice specifically when it comes to visibility. And these are some of the insights that I've gleaned over the years. There's first phase where they're just doing it. They're feeling a bit tired, but they push through to a point where they get used to feeling tired. And then they take that with them. Oh, it's just what needs to happen. Once the project's finished, I'll take a break, all of those sorts of things. So it's pretty invisible and they keep pushing. The next phase is where they might start forgetting important things, or it might start affecting them mentally or physically, but they still push through because there's no reason for them to stop. And they think they've just got a lot of on their plate, they're just spinning plates. So they keep pushing through. And then the third part of it is where they burn out emotionally or physically or both. What I think is especially sad about this is when I've worked with people who have had burnout before, it can make them a bit reticent to put themselves out there because they think they have to emulate that all over again. And the other thing is the amount of time it takes for them to get back to their fully rested self is phenomenal. First time I became aware of this pretty early on in my working life, I had a client who was recovering from burnout and they were going into their third year where they still couldn't exert themselves, couldn't do everything that they wanted to do because their body was still recovering. And very grateful for the insights that they particularly shared because they were seeing a naturopath, and they went down that route and that really supported them. It was really helpful for them. But the worst of it is people assume that to be visible, you've got to be here, there, everywhere, 24/7, always switched on and always out there. So let me tell you about my experience of this. Now, in my design, I can keep going and keep going and keep going. And in my past, like over the decades, I've had jobs where my predecessors have burnt out or had stress and had to stop, but I've kept going. I've had phases where I have worked like excessive hours. One particular time, I remember being asked to calculate how many hours I worked in a week. And to my horror, my average, I almost feel like, oh, but my average was actually 85 hours a week, meaning that some weeks I worked even more than that. My job was only Monday to Friday. What on earth was I doing in those hours? The quick answer was it was spilling over into weekends. I was starting earlier in the morning, finishing later at night. And when we do that, when we put ourselves, like switch ourselves on the on switch all the time, of course we're going to burn out, but often we're the last person to notice it. Another thing that I have seen, which people don't talk about, I guess, because they haven't seen it from my point of view, which I guess could be subjective if I didn't see it play out in front of my eyes over and over again. One of the things that I notice in the last 14 years is when I speak to people who, and this is interesting because it happens on the business owner side and the founder side, as well as the employed professional side too. When somebody is really passionate about something and great about something, and I'm going to use the term refuses to be visible about the thing, what actually happens is they end up doing something else that they actually don't want to. And it doesn't take very long for that person to feel mentally burnt out as well as physically burnt out. They lose their enthusiasm for what they do. They lose their spark. They lose the excitement. They lose their creativity. That happens very, very quickly. So before I wrap up this video, I just wanted to share a couple of things, kind of like almost like to-dos or sometimes not to-dos. So the first thing is notice if you are doing a lot in general, full stop. This doesn't just have to be with visibility. Like I say, I'm doing 365 days of live slash videos, and a handful of people who I hope you'll get to meet in the coming weeks are doing it too. That to some people feels like a lot. There are some people that chose to go down this journey and this path and only do Monday to Friday. I remember when I spoke about it initially, I said, well, you do have the option of going, just, so I think someone's at the door, but I'm going to ignore them. You do have the option of just doing weekends or a couple of days a week. Consistency doesn't mean 24/7 full on. So take note of how much you are actually physically doing. Before, if you can, but usually by this stage, people are already in it. The second thing that I would say is recalibrate your vision for what you want to do and how you want to be. The saying goes, we're human beings, not human doing. So if we set ourselves these exponential targets to do things that feel outside of our zone of genius, you will burn out for sure. You will burn out for sure. And you'll burn out quicker than if you were to run up and down 10 flights of stairs carrying a fridge on your back every day. Just bear with me. Babes, there's someone at the door and I'm doing a live. There's somebody at the door and I'm doing a live. Thanks, babes. There you go. If something happens while you're live streaming, acknowledge it and carry on. So, luckily, there was someone else here to be able to help. So I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, so that's the second thing to do. The next thing to do, as the old song says, check yourself before you wreck yourself. One of the biggest things that I see people do is that they do something they don't really want to. I recently found myself in a similar position to this, where there's something that I'm good at, as it says in the Great Leap, or the Big Leap even, by Gay Hendricks. There's our zone of excellence and our zone of genius. So although this comes into my zone of excellence, I'd even say greatness, but excellence, my zone of genius is visibility. My zone of genius is helping people to overcome the thing that stops them from putting themselves out there, putting their work out there, speaking to people. But I found myself working in the zone of excellence, which is something I can do, but it wasn't the thing that I deeply want to. It's not the thing that feels like purpose for me. So I noticed very, very quickly in the space of less than 12 weeks, I began to feel really fatigued. And how that actually came about wasn't that I felt tired, it felt all consuming. It took a lot of my time. It wasn't something that I had to research and didn't know what to do. And it's the reason why when people come to me to look to work with me, I will often be very candid. If it's not a good fit for either of us, it's got to work for both of us in partnership. But if it's not a good fit for me, I'll let them know why. And if it's not a good fit for them, I'll let them know why too. This particular thing slipped through the net, and lesson learned, it was a great reminder of why not. But when you look at the thing you're doing, if you're not in your zone of excellence, this is one of the biggest contributors to almost like a mental burnout as well as a physical burnout. I think it was no surprise that it actually affected my immune system. I physically was ill too. And it took me a while to realise or recognise what I had done. It was in speaking to, coaches and mentors usually, and some of the reflective practices that I've learned, that I realised what was going on. And when I did realise what was going on, I still sat with it to make sure I wasn't being rash or making a hefty decision. But once I, had confirmation that that was the thing, I had to switch it around. Now, some of you, thing number 4 is to check what it is you actually want to do. Quite often, people don't spend enough time creating and recreating and recalibrating the vision for their life. They might set some goals and then carry on with those for like a decade or more. Sometimes they don't even go down the goal setting route. They don't believe in it. The word goals feels too kind of forceful, and makes an impact that doesn't feel great for them. And other times they other times they don't create a vision in the first place that's clear enough to know what it is they want to do. How this comes out in a lot of coaching conversations are people will almost whisper, like I'll ask them maybe what they do or what they've been up to, and they'll tell me, and then they'll almost whisper and like look from side to side and say something like, what I really want to do is, and then they'll tell me. And then when I ask, well, why not do that instead? Then I get the kind of like the beliefs of why they think they can't do the thing. So quite often, when it comes to visibility and burnout, being sure that you are on track, that you've set some goals and that you stay on that path is one of the things that's actually going to fill you with joy. And although I say this almost with my tongue in my cheek, I'll often say visibility is a thing that I could do 24/7 without eating or sleeping. It energizes me so much. But when I stray away from visibility, like if somebody said, oh, Jenny, can you help me set up a spreadsheet? I need you to do that for the next year. It's something I can do. To a point, but it's not something that I enjoy at all. If I was to do that, even for a whole month, I already know, I can feel it. It feels like horrible. It feels really like, oh, don't like it. It feels all consuming. It feels too much. So us being able to vision what we want, regardless of anything that's going on, us being able to recognize the path to get there, us being able to have the ability to step in and do is really important. So why am I talking about all of this in a trilogy? Now, this isn't for everybody. I have just started to share more publicly around transformational training or train transformation. And the reason that I've done this is, and the reason I say it's not for everybody, in terms of train the trainer, I've been training trainers for many years. I can do that quite easily. I love doing it. I've done it in software as a service. I've done it in financial services. I've done it in helping people to implement CRM systems, which I guess is software as a service. I've helped people to do this for retreats where they're doing kind of personal development, transformational stuff. I've helped people who have already provide transformation, coaches and mentors, people who are leaders, in the sense that they lead people, people that are maybe known as thought leaders too, speakers and stuff like that. Over the years, many years now, I've helped them to take the tools that they already use, that they already transform, to help other people to transform into more of the work that they do too. I remember going to a retreat. There's a couple of retreat hosts that I've helped with this. Going to a retreat, they were training out two very specific modalities, which they were absolutely excellent at. And in between, where people were falling through the cracks because it felt emotional and things like that, the tools that they had worked and were okay, but other tools were needed. That's when I was called in. Can you help with this? Or they might be talking to somebody about the thing that they do. Another retreat example where it's all well and good telling somebody about something, but to have lasting transformation, the person that you're speaking to, the people that you're speaking to, need to experience their thing in their own way. And many people are trained in their modalities, are brilliant at what they do, but don't know how to hold that space for that person as they walk through or as they're going through it. I remember a client telling me a few years ago, they were going through something particularly difficult, particularly painful, and I just pulled the tools that were needed for them to have the experience that they needed. It's nothing to do with me. It's not about showing how good I am, how great I am, how good my skills are. It's for them to get the results that they're looking to get, and as quickly as possible. And when something is painful that somebody is expressing, it's really important to be able to hold that energy for them too. And I do this, whether it's entrepreneurial or whether it's corporately. I've been in corporate rooms, people have felt afraid, they haven't necessarily said anything, but there are different tools and techniques that you can have to have that person feel safe and have the transformation that they're going through and that they need to. So this particular time, I remember hearing what the person was saying, taking them through the transformation. And it was one of the things that people often say to me after we've had, sometimes it's a conversation, it feels very easy, maybe not for them, and they say, oh my gosh, I feel so much lighter. That's one of the first things many people say. There's things I notice in their physiology that change. They often look lighter, they look happier, that it's like the lines melt away. There are other physical things that they do that I noticed, because the first few times I noticed it, I thought it was a bit of a thing, but I made a note of it, and I realised there's a couple of physical things that people do. But what struck me was, after this particular interaction, the person sent me a message and said, I've worked with many coaches and mentors, and a lot of them will walk you to the riverbank, leave you to cross, and meet you at the other side. I thought, okay, that sounds fair enough. And they said, but with you, you held my hand and walked through with me. It was like I walked through the valley of the shadow of death. Even repeating that still gives me goosebumps to this day. It was one of the most powerful things I heard. And for somebody to experience that and feel that while going through a transformation, whether it's difficult or not, to me is a testament to this transformational work. It's not even a testament to me. The person is going through it. I just want more people to have these skills, this knowledge, in their kind of invisible toolkit so they can pull them out when they need to. This is not about doing something my way. This is about doing something your way. And when you have people that are anxious, not feeling safe, maybe being triggered in the true sense of the word, feeling like they're in a space where they might feel like they don't fit in, feeling vulnerable, feeling on top of the world, and then the next minute having a realization or a breakthrough that is like mind blowing. More of us need to have these kinds of tools and techniques to be able to help people walk through. I don't care if you teach sales. I don't care if you're a coach. I don't care if you're a speaker. I don't care if what you do is technical, is linear, is logical. I don't care if what you do is magical. I care about you getting the results that you've always intended to. And because I've been doing this for so long, I've seen it come up in so many different places and spaces. It's like I can't ignore it. And part of the thing that I realized when I potentially could have gone down the rabbit hole and burnt myself out is that there are people that want to know how to do this. This is not about me training you, telling you what to do. This is about you coming to me with the thing you do. And this is why it's not for everybody. If you are thinking, I'd like to be a coach one day, I'm not really sure what I'm going to specialize in yet. This isn't for you yet. I've got something else that could probably help you more, but this isn't for you yet. If you've been doing the thing that you have been doing and you've ever felt a frustration of people doing the stuff, but then it kind of doesn't stick or they go back to old habits, then this is for you. It's not counselling, it's not coercion, it's not manipulation. I have done this within companies such as Salesforce.com and Boots and places like that. But what this does is it feels like an exercise that you can slide into the stuff that you already do. This is why you need to be already doing the thing. You know, if not, it's not for you. Hey, Debbie, good to see you. So if you are selling a product or a service, and you want your people to receive the full benefit of the thing you do, then definitely reach out. What I would say is do go and have a look at the post that went out before this on my Facebook page, which is 𝗙𝗶𝗍𝗲, the Queen of Being Seen. It will go out. I was debating whether to put it out on LinkedIn. I will do for a short amount of time, but there's something else that's probably even better for my people on LinkedIn. I have put it out on Instagram too, which I'm at the Queen of Being Seen. Go and have a read of that. And if any of what you read speaks to you, I'm inviting, just for the next couple of weeks or so, you to send me a message, let me know what about it speaks to you, what about it you feel could be good for you. And what I'll do is I'll send you a link to book a call. I'll ask you a few questions, send you a link to book a call, and we'll have a talk about whether it's the right thing for you. And if it isn't, I promise to tell you that's the best I can do. I am looking at doing this as private days, and something you need to know about my private client days, sometimes known as VIP days, but my private client days, whether you do it yourself or in a small group, what you'll find is I will work with you for that day, but I'll have a container. It's part of you feeling safe and being able to decompress and feel things to come up. So you will have a 30-day container afterwards. And even before we meet on the day, we'll have a call and we'll have like a kickoff session and just get stuff embedded. And I've got some resources that I can send you to that will kind of get you prepped for the thing. The other thing is we will work in complete confidentiality under non-disclosures. So it means that I'll never do a live stream or a post where I say, hey, I met 𝗙𝗶𝗍𝗶 who did A, B, or C. I'll never disclose what you do. Now, for some of you, you don't want to do that privately. You want to do that in a group. So if that's you too, let me know. I would like to host and run the group in person, which I know for those of you who are my clients in like America, Canada, Australia, no longer Hong Kong, they've moved, but in different parts of the world, it might be a different dynamic for you. So you might want to do that online, or you might want to come over to the UK. It's not the first time I've had people flying from Denmark and Germany and America in Florida, to come to one of my in-person events. But I just want to be able to take good care of you. I want you to feel the transformation that you need, but to be able to help create the transformation that you might need for you. I haven't got my haven't got my glasses on. Drop Streamlard link to join the live stream. Yes. On this, thank you for saying that, but I'm not inviting people to join me live on this trilogy, not this time around anyway. So thank you so much for those of you who are out there doing stuff in the world. Debbie, who's on here, who says hi, I think she's watching through Facebook. Debbie does some amazing stuff for people in the world through making sure that they are protected in lots of different ways. To me, that's no less transformational than the work that Tony Robbins does. It's different. It makes difference in the world. It has people value more of what she offers and what she does, but it doesn't make what she does any less than. Where somebody like Debbie might be able to take advantage of this kind of transformational work are in the conversations that she's having. It could be the questionings, to have people think differently. Quite often, when people are having these conversations, the focus is on meeting objections and, quashing them, and super sales skills. In one of my programs, presentations that sell, I talk about this kind of questioning piece. So her transformation may be that in these conversations that she's having, she provides deep transformation for the person so that they then know the best forms or ways to protect themselves too. That might make sense to her and not to somebody else. But this is what I mean. This isn't a one size fits all. So when it comes to putting your work out there in the world, being purpose driven and making a difference, really, watch for times where your people become anxious, even if they didn't come in anxious. It's not necessarily that you are doing a thing to them. It could just be something that's going on for them. And it's great for you in those interactions to be able to help them through that anxiety, and know when to pass it on to a professional if it's something, pretty deep, without harming them. In this instance, the burnout, it's good to know your zones of genius in the things that you do. And for a lot of the people that work with me, they don't do just one thing, they do multiple things, but they're not sure how to string it together. So they end up doing what's popular. That causes a mental and physical burnout, fatigue. It's a feeling of wanting to stop what you're doing and just needing time to think, not being sure which way to continue, feeling confused, not having the clarity that you once had around the things. These are all signs of a mental burnout. And usually a physical thing happens to stop us. In my case, I got, kind of like a virus, the virus. But for other people, it can be all sorts of things. As actually mentioned in the book, The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks, if you haven't read that, it's definitely worth getting an audio book and listening to it as you do the washing up and do things around the house, and having a read of that too. So tomorrow I'm going to talk about visibility and overwhelm and what happens. These trilogy, these three kind of master classes and discussions are going to be up for you to see. So if you want to come back to them and you don't want to do it, like I say, on Facebook or LinkedIn, you can go over to my YouTube channel, and have a look. If you go to my YouTube channel, have a look at videos. If it's not in the kind of like recent videos there, just click on the live button if it shows you that, and have a look there and you'll find these streams there. Other than that, I hope that you have a great day. I hope you get some time to think about what really drives you, what fuels you, what's your passion. And if you are even remotely curious about a private day of training transformation, or even a group date of doing that. Reach out to me, let me know. It's important for me to have discussion with you because I want to make sure that it's the right thing to do. It's not a have a discussion with me so I can sell you into something. Make sure it's the right thing for you and let you know what the options are. I will be running a program again for the second time called Iconic, which starts in September. So there'll only be a short window, a small window for me talking about this, how to get involved, all sorts of things. Like people ask me, is there payment plans and things like that? Yes, there is. How much is it? Depending on which you do. And also some opportunities in the summer while everyone's sipping on wine, rosé and beer around the pool. And some of us will continue to work, and no shame in whichever you choose. July and August is a really good time to get your ducks in a row, get everything going, and get yourself prepped to start sharing immediately or start sharing for the back to school, back in September vibe. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sharing. If you know people that need to hear this information, please guide them. Probably to YouTube is the easiest way. Share the link to the video wherever you're watching, and get them to have a watch, have a listen too. And if they haven't got a lot of time, remember you can hit the cog and speed it up a bit so that you can listen to it extra fast and take it in again and again. That's my preferred thing, repetition. It might be yours too. That's it. Bye for now. Thank you for watching. Hi, and thank you, Debbie.